Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I want to start by saying that the wall behind me, you might be hearing things in the background. Sometimes it seems like the microphone picks up a lot of the noise going on, and my son is working on his car literally on the other side of this wall. This is a common wall with our garage, and he's got his music going, so if you hear some thump thump thumping, it's not just my heart beating fast about this book, it's actually his music playing. Thanks for stopping by for today's video. Today's book is by one of my very favorite authors, Monica James. The book is a spin-off from her All the Pretty Things trilogy. It's titled The Devil's Crown, and it is about Alexei Popov. If you read the All the Pretty Things trilogy, you will know exactly who Alec is. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't and you watch today's video, you might get a spoiler or two. You know I always try not to give spoilers, but it might happen because there's 3 previous books and all of it's still in this book as well. We get to see a lot of characters that we already know and love, and then characters that we actually don't like at all, but show up in this book. I will include the videos for the All the Pretty Things trilogy in the description box below. I have to admit, going in, that Alec was not one of my favorite characters at all, and if you've read the series, you know what I'm talking about. Although it seems that there's so many people that really, really like him, and I just wasn't really one of those people. In fact, in all honesty and transparency, I actually almost didn't even sign up to read the book. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I'm so into Monica's writing and I trust her so much with my heart that I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read it because maybe she'll change my mind. Maybe she can make me like him. It sounds terrible. But as we know from the other 3 books, you know, Alec is kind of hard to like. So all the Alec lovers out there, I'm sorry if I'm offending you. I see sort of the redeeming, that sounds terrible. I see the redeeming qualities that you see in him. I'm not blind, I get it. I know that in Forever My Saint, I sort of warmed to him a bit in that book, and so I know where we're starting when The Devil's Crown starts, so I don't hate him by any stretch of the imagination, but I just wasn't Team Alec, and I didn't know if I ever could be. When the book starts, Alec is in a pretty low place. He's in the same place he's been since Forever My Saint. I think a year or 2 has passed. I think she said it was 2 years since we kind of left things with Forever My Saint, and we know that in Forever My Saint, time has passed there as well. So, but not much has changed in Alec's life. He is still laying low. He still, dare I say, was a little humbled. I don't think Alexei Popov could ever be humbled, but he's still kind of down and out, so to speak. He is continuing to be a supporter of the orphanage. We know about that from the previous books. That has kept up. That is high on my list where I go when he does something that upsets me so much. I remember about him. We do meet new characters in this book pretty quickly, and then, like I said, we do have some characters from the previous books that show up. So I had a feel for where we were starting with Alec. I highlighted a ton of this book. I think I was just kind of being like, yep, There's the Alec I know. That's par for the course with him. Or if he would give me little snippets into something that I liked, I would highlight those as well. Turns out I have a gajillion highlights. I started out pretty quick with my highlights, and this is coming from Alek's perspective. I've endured the consequences of the many choices I have made throughout my life. But when she made a choice, when she chose the better man and ripped my heart out, those consequences weren't so easily accepted. So that's what I mean when I say, like, is he kind of humble? Is he understand how he lived most of his life and the damage that he did to so many innocent people? And not so innocent people, really, when it comes down to it. Terrible people as well that had it coming to them. But, you know, this is a dark romance, and it is dark. I applaud Monica sharpening her dark romance skills. She did a fabulous job. This book is like really pretty darn dark. And that part of that is Alek's personality and the underbelly of the people in his world. But there are some light spots too. So I read that part and I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're gonna start like on a good right foot. And then he says this and I'm like, nope. Once upon a time, I thought that maybe I could do this thing, live a normal life. The devil lay dormant for a while, humoring me because he knew we were cut from the same cloth, and sooner or later I would need to feed the darkness inside me. Mayhem, power, and control are what coursed through my veins and what made me a victorious leader, and now I want my effing crown back. So he's basically the same. He is out for vengeance. All his paths lead towards that. The Devil's Crown takes place in Russia, and I loved how Monica brought in the Russian language into the dialogue with Alek and the other characters, although I did have to highlight and then go, swipe over and hit the translate to make sure that I got all of the words, but I still love that I learned those things in the book. 2 new characters come in, and I really wondered what they were going to be all about. They are both women, and I was curious to see how it was going to play out with each of them. Regardless of how I feel about Alek, I never like seeing people get kicked when they're down. And, there were times in here where he was kicked when he was down. It did pull on my heartstrings a bit for him. In all honesty as well, there were a few things in the book, and I can handle a dark romance, that doesn't really bother me so much. I mean, yeah, sure, there's things that bother me for sure, but I can handle a dark romance just fine. But where I was a little uncomfortable was that one of the characters, okay, so I've mentioned that Alek is still involved at the orphanage with the nuns and the little kids that live there. I adored his relationship with Mother Superior. They didn't have to say so many words. They just knew where each other stood in each other's lives. And if you've read the book, you know where I'm going, but Alek kind of does things in the church and at the altar that made me a little uncomfortable. I am Catholic. I do consider myself a religious person, and I understand that there's like things you don't do. But when it came down to it, that was par for the course with Alek. So I understood why Monica wrote it the way she did. My heart understood when Alek talked about Willow and still being kind of hung up on her, and all of his feelings that he talked about having about her. Alek is having kind of a passionate conversation with somebody, and she's calling him on his feelings for Willow, and this is what he says. How can she read me so well? But more importantly, why does she care? She speaks of Willow and she's right. I can't get over her. I don't know how. She was the first person in my entire life who actually cared about me, really cared. She came back for me when no one else ever did, and I wanted her. I still want her, but she doesn't want me. I'm truly happy for her and Saint, but that doesn't lessen my pain. She's everywhere I look, and I don't know how to make it stop. Okay, that's when he gets me. That's when he gets me, when he's talking about Willow and his love for her. I had an extra little exciting moment in the book when I read that Ella is from Illinois. She talks about growing up on a farm. Now, you might know that Illinois is quite a large state. It's pretty long, and I'm from Chicago, which is in the very northern part of the state. But still, I was like, oh, yay, Ella's from here, okay. It was like a happy little arrow straight to my heart. So I kind of mentioned that we see some characters that we already know and love. So here is kind of, I hope not to be, but I would think that if you've read the books, you can assume. But here's a little warning to you that this might be a little bit of a spoiler, although I don't think it's that big of a spoiler, in that we see Willow and Saint in this book. They make an appearance, a rather large appearance. I was so excited. I always love catching up with characters that I love in other books. Willow and Saint are no different. And the way Alec reacts to seeing her again, this is what he says. Willow Shaw stole my breath from the first moment I saw her, and now is no different. Her hair has grown longer from when I saw her last, and the atrocities she's seen, the atrocities I introduced her to, have hardened her innocence. But she's still my angel. But that's one of the times where she used a Russian word. A fierce warrior with a benevolent heart. And Saint, if I didn't need a reason to love him even more than I already do, this is an interaction between Saint and Alec. No matter what I did to Willow, she will always try to save me, and it kills Saint inside. You're asking me to help deliver what you deserve? He poses with a snicker. You're asking me to rid scum from this earth, scum who had no problem exploiting my very existence to live? Willow. You're asking me to end your bloodline? Abso-effing-lutely. He just still has his vigor, and they have such an interesting relationship, don't they? And I just loved I burst out laughing when I was reading that, because I thought, you know, Saint is going to take any opportunity he can to kind of stick it to Alec. And they had quite a moment, should we say. And it was a long time coming, and you could feel it brewing. And I kind of liked that they had it, even though it was like a little violent. But I liked it because I really felt like Alec deserved every single thing that Saint gives him. But interestingly enough, even though I think that really they deep down hate each other, because for lots of reasons, if you've read the books, you know their history, but they still have this incredible bond. And when I was thinking about the video, I thought, and when I was thinking about that part, and it's not even respect, I don't think that they have. There is something that they have that is there regardless of whether either one of them wants it. And I actually really love that. When I was preparing for the video, I thought of 3 things that I just absolutely loved about this book. 2 of them are that Alec kind of doesn't feel like he's really worth anything where he is, and that he does understand, he's not an idiot, he does understand the havoc that he has created in people's worlds, people's lives around him, surrounding himself. So he kind of feels like, well, if someone takes me out, they take me out, but I'm going to go down fighting because of everything that I talked about in the beginning of the video. But he doesn't really care if he dies. He's like, okay, so then I die. So he said 2 things that really stuck out to me. The first one was, when we die, we are nothing but a memory for those who wish to keep it alive. Oh my gosh. Like, that just hit me right in the gut. Isn't that sad? And it's true. And then the other thing he said was, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm far more afraid of living when my loved ones aren't. Loved ones. That was like screaming at me about that he said that. I was like, oh, is that the moment I've been waiting for? Is that the moment that makes me feel for him and accept him the way so many other people like him? And then the last 5 words, where's my hand? 5. The last 5 words are what made me so happy that I read the book. And Alec says, we go get my girl. And I know that sounds like, because we know there's a part 2. We already know that there's a second book, and it's The Devil's Crown Part 2, so we know it's coming. But that was the moment where I was so excited. And I was like, oh, okay, yay, give me that next book now. I know I take my glasses on and off a lot in my videos, so I hope that's not too distracting. Let me know if you have read the All the Pretty Things trilogy, or if you have read The Devil's Crown, or what other books of Monica's you've read. I want to take a second to say thank you to each and every one of you that have subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.